Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So in this video we're going to address the number one question that I'm sure has been on every Palantir investor's mind the last 1 week, and that is, has Palantir hit the bottom? So this is going to be a very interesting video. We're going to cover a lot, and I think that you do have to see this as a Palantir investor to know what you should do in the future. And as always, if you like this video and you like this content, then please make sure that you hit the subscribe button. If you want to go even further and get access to all my company valuations on the companies that I cover, which is pretty much Tesla and Palantir on this channel, and you want to get my eternal gratitude and you want to support the channel, then you can check out the first link in the description box below, which is a link to our Patreon, and for $5 a month you can get access to all these goodies. Let's get started with the video. In order for us to see if Palantir has hit the bottom, we need to see what has been driving the recent macro crash. So this is Palantir stock. From the top, it has fallen 85% to the lowest price, which was 6.60, I believe. And since that point, I'm gonna move my head, it has rallied a crazy 30% up, 32.03% up since the lowest price that it has hit. My God, the people that bought at that price, what a good buy. The main question is, what is driving this fall? Is it the company that is going bad, or is it outside macro factors? I believe that this line here is how the company is growing in value. I believe that this is the fair value of the company. And obviously you can see that during the euphoria times in 2020 and 2021 with, all the stimulus money, the stock way detached from its fundamentals, and then it started falling, and then now it way overshot to the bottom based on my calculations. So what has been driving this crash? So one of the main drivers was the Fed increasing interest rates to combat inflation, and this is the most important part. Then we had the war in Russia and Ukraine. Then recently we have had lockdowns in China because of their zero COVID policy, and all of these resulted in a lot of supply chain disruptions, which in turn results in higher prices and inflation and slower economy. I want to zero in on the biggest driver, because I'm not sure that we would have had the same crash had the Fed not been, increasing its interest rates and the inflation was not so high. I believe just a war in Ukraine would not have been enough, or, just COVID lockdown in China would not have been enough to cause such a severe crash in the stock market. I'm sure all of you know it's not just Palantir that has been falling, it's all the stock market. The Nasdaq was 30% down, the S&P 500 was 20% down, so there was basically nowhere to hide. So what is causing the inflation? The reason why I want to go through this, because if we can see that these things are handled or are getting better, then we know that, okay, we're at the end of this cycle and the market has reached the bottom. And if these things are not getting better or getting worse, then there's certainly more downside to the market. But it doesn't mean necessarily that it has to be downside for Palantir. So this is what's a very interesting dynamic here. You will see in a bit. So the consumer has a lot of money because of global COVID stimulus. So I want to show you an article here that the global consumers have saved up. This is an article from April 2019, 2021. I have heard a 4 trillion number on CNBC just a few weeks ago, that the consumers still have 4 trillion in excess savings. So why does this matter? Because the way that the Fed is trying to fight inflation is that they increase the interest rates, and then your cars, your homes, your travels, everything is going to be more expensive. However, for this to really happen, the consumer has to not have money. The consumer has to be very low on money. But the consumers have gotten, as you can see here, consumers around the world have amassed an extra 5.4 trillion in savings since the coronavirus pandemic began, setting the stage for a spending boom, inflation boom, in other words, that could power a strong uplift in economic growth this year. Households have stockpiled the excess savings equal to 6% of global GDP by the end of March, according to Moody's. The savings are on top of what they would have saved if the pandemic had not occurred, and any saving behavior that had been the same as in 2019. The United States boasts the largest share of excess saving amounting to 2.6 trillion or 12% of the US GDP, with the United Kingdom close behind at 10%. As you can see, for the consumer or for the demand, because what's causing the prices or inflation rise, it's obviously that there is a lot of demand, and for the demand to go down, the consumer has to somehow spend through their money so that they start feeling really tight and they start pulling back on their spendings. But what I see, one major problem is, I also see it in myself, that, you know, even that the prices are very high, we haven't been doing things for 2 years now. And for example, the gas prices are crazy high, you know, travel costs, food costs are crazy high. But I decided to go and visit my grandparents in Hungary this summer. And I can tell you, it doesn't matter how high the prices go, we are going to go, because we haven't seen them in such a long time. And unfortunately, when, you know, there's a buffer of 4 trillion in the bank account, you kind of don't give an F where the prices are going. The consumer has not rolled over yet in this Fed tightening. So the next thing that is giving a hard time is for inflation, is worker shortage. And I want to show you a video clip. Let's just go through this and then I show you the video clip. Then there is the supply chain issues from Russia and Ukraine, and there is the supply chain issues from the China lockdown, because they have a zero COVID policy. So why are these things again important? Because the supply chain issues that come from Russia and Ukraine, they're not going to be solved anytime soon. It looks like Russia and Ukraine is going into a prolonged attrition war, and I believe that the supply chains will have to relocate, which will take time. And I think that investors start to realize this, and this is why this issue is kind of solving itself, but it's not a quick fix. Then you have the supply chains in China because of the zero policy. And this is very, very painful for many companies. For example, Tesla has a very big factory in Shanghai. And even though they got a special permission from the government to reopen the factory, they cannot produce at their capacity because all their other Chinese suppliers are in lockdown and they just don't deliver. So it's a very much catch-22 situation. And I don't believe, again, there is a fast handling on this. I think supply chains will have to relocate outside of China if they don't want to do with this crazy zero lockdown policy, or they just have to wait until the government changes. I do believe that they're easing now, and Shanghai, I heard, is reopening slowly in June. So again, there is a slow handling of this one. But now I want to show you a video clip that I saw from Kevin O'Leary, which is very fitting for us as investors to know how the Fed is doing on combating the consumer feeling like they have too much money to spend, the worker shortages, and, you know, how the economy is going in general. And I think that he has a very special insight because he is a shark from Shark Tank and he owns a ton of privately held companies all over the US. So I think he has very valuable insights for us.
Opportunities. If we are dealing with high inflation, first of all, do you think it sticks around? And if that's the case, where would you be looking?
I'd like to look for businesses that are growing their cash flows, have strong balance sheets, and are servicing the demand at the time. And, you know, it's true that we have inflation and there's a lot of concern about a recession. I don't see any of that in the short term. I mean, I'm living in the real world here with over 30 private companies in our portfolio in almost every geography in the US. Right now, things are booming. Sales are on fire. Cash flows are better than they've ever been. And I know we should be pessimistic, but I can't get there right now because I'm trying to hire people and I can't find them. Try and find a server in Los Angeles for a kitchen operation. For minimum wage $15. I have to pay $25 in some cases just to get them to come to work. So there's a lot of demand at all levels for employment. So I'm not that worried about the classic recession.
So guys, this interview is from 2 days ago. So when you listen to this, does it sound like the Fed has raised the interest rates to a level where it's slowing down the economy, it's combating inflation, and, you know, things are getting better? It really doesn't sound like that to me now. As you could see from these videos, the main drivers of this market crash, which is, you know, the Fed and the inflation and the supply chains. The supply chains, yes, are getting better, but they're a small part of this problem. But the inflation is not at all handled yet, whatever people think. However, Palantir as a company, they are very inflation proof and they're very not affected by these macro conditions. So Palantir has a pricing power. They mainly work with governments and global 6,000 companies that will never run out of money. Because, for example, if you're a car company like Tesla and suddenly the consumers, spend through their savings and they're unable to, buy products, what are they going to cut back on? Then maybe they're not going to buy a 53,000 Tesla, right? So Tesla is not that recession proof from this viewpoint. But Palantir is based on who they serve. Palantir actually thrives in bad times. For example, the Russia-Ukraine situation is a huge tailwind for them. The supply chain issues is a huge tailwind for them. And they have an additional benefit because I'm going to play a video by Alex Karp who talks about the situation. The funding of VC is turned off for young startups, which make the employees very expensive for Palantir, and they poach the employees from Palantir. So I just want to give you a clip from Alex Karp.
We're in the very difficult times. Palantir is built for difficult times. Of course, I care what employees, investors are going through, but what they should care about, and what I care about is where's the company going to be in a couple years? And let me tell you another thing about bad times. Our primary competition are startups invigorated by the hot, somewhat caustic and addictive fumes of loose venture dollars. Those companies are being cut off from the vapors of those fumes, and that affects my business much more than any stock price, meaning that I do not lose employees to these companies that are 2 days before they fail. The people that should come to Palantir and power a better world don't go to a startup that's going to essentially build consumer products that help none of us. So that's like a massive opportunity for Palantir.
So you see, Alex Karp says that this time is a massive opportunity for Palantir. So if we look at Palantir, have we hit the bottom? So here's the very tricky thing. So I did another video about that. When you look at when the stocks hit their peaks, it was at different times. So the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq has been falling very much since November, but all the, tech or the Cathie Wood stocks have, or many of them have been falling since January, February, some have peaked in, June, July. So they're not peaking at the same time. And I've heard this many times, and it's very logical that these companies peaked almost a year before the market started crashing. And probably they will start, bottoming before the whole market is bottoming. The thing is that the fundamentals for Palantir is amazing. The company is doing good. It has full of tailwinds. None of the macro situations impact them in a bad way. And actually, they're even impacted in a good way. Like they have an easier time to get good employees. They don't have to worry about inflation. The supply chains make the companies want to use them more. The war makes the government want to use them more. And then once they put the foot in the door, then they have a crazy net retention rate, meaning that the customers spend more and more and more with them as the time goes on. So Palantir might have hit the bottom, but the macro, meaning the markets, they have very much not have hit the bottom yet. But saying this, nobody can predict the market. All I'm saying is I really hope that you guys have taken massive advantage of Palantir share price with a 6 in front of it. I would be surprised to see that price again, but if we do, I'm going to really look for ways to send money to the market. But I would not be surprised if Palantir bottoms at this point and the market keeps on going down, maybe another 20% more before it hits the bottom. So let me know in the comments what you think. If you agree with my analysis or you have a different opinion, I want to know. And if you watched the video thus far, you are amazing. Please make sure that you take a look at the Patreon link in the description box below if you want to support the channel. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.